Jason leaves prison and immediately hires a skip tracer to track Bailey. He uses financial records and public data to monitor her movements. Bailey finds Jason working in a park and confronts him. She demands a divorce and orders him to stop his psychological games. She details his history of isolating her from friends and family. Jason denies the abuse, claiming he only wanted to provide her with guidance. Bailey warns him to stay away forever and walks away. The retaliation is immediate. That night, police intercept Bailey on the road. They search her vehicle and find 2 kilograms of cocaine planted inside. Bailey realizes Jason has framed her as she is handcuffed and arrested on a felony charge. John Nolan visits her in a holding cell. Bailey explains that Jason is trying to destroy her career so she will have nowhere else to go. Nolan promises to fix the situation. Nolan tracks Jason to a parking lot. Jason initially pretends to be shocked by the arrest, but eventually drops the act. He expresses satisfaction that Bailey is finally facing consequences for her actions. He believes that if Bailey loses everything, she will be forced to return to him. Nolan tells Jason that he knows exactly who he is and that his control ends here. He stands his ground, signaling that the investigation into Jason's setup has begun. Gunfire shatters the windows and punches holes through the apartment walls as Sazaya's water breaks. Officer Lucy Chen is pinned down inside with no professional medical staff and only a standard-issue first aid kit. Outside, a gang surrounds the building, maintaining a constant stream of fire. Lucy clears a space on the floor to start the delivery while bullets whistle overhead. She has no specialized tools, only her hands and basic gauze. The pressure mounts as the baby is born into the middle of a gunfight. The relief is short-lived when Cecilia begins to suffer from a massive postpartum hemorrhage. Blood pools on the carpet and the mother's pulse weakens. Lucy realizes she cannot wait for an ambulance that cannot reach them through the crossfire. She moves to the kitchen and turns the burner of the gas stove to its highest setting. She holds a metal tool in the blue flame until the tip turns a dull red. Lucy returns to the mother and identifies the bleeding artery. She presses the heated metal directly onto the open vessel to cauterize the wound. The bleeding stops as the smell of scorched tissue fills the air. Just as the infant lets out its first cry, the apartment doors are kicked in. Police tactical teams flood the room with flashbangs and heavy weaponry. New life and violent destruction occupy the same narrow hallway. Lucy secures the newborn while the tactical unit neutralizes the remaining threats. The siege ends as paramedics finally move in to take over. Officer Lucy Chen is on patrol when she receives the call. Her father, a psychologist, is in the hospital with a shattered arm. A patient attacked him during a session. Lucy arrives at the hospital to find her father uncooperative. He views the police department as a predatory system and refuses to name his assailant. He insists the man suffered a mental break and requires clinical help, not a jail cell. To him, Lucy is a participant in a cycle of state-sanctioned violence. Lucy ignores his protests. She accesses the legal database and pulls the booking report. The facts are clear. The assault is a felony. She tracks the patient, William, to the hospital hallway. She does not hesitate. Lucy leads the man back into her father's room. Her father demands she stop. He claims the arrest will undo months of therapeutic progress and shatter the patient's trust. Lucy does not argue. She forces William to turn around and secures the handcuffs. She tells her father that the law gives her no discretion in this matter. Her father orders her to leave his room, stating he no longer sees her as his daughter, but only as a cop. At the precinct, Lucy submits the paperwork. She includes a 5-page mental health addendum to ensure the suspect receives treatment in custody. Her training officer, Sergeant Bishop, questions if this is a desperate attempt to reconcile with her father. Lucy remains silent. She has upheld the law, but she has lost her family. Officer Nolan pulls over Claire Ivy for a routine traffic violation. Despite being a suspect in 40 multi-million-dollar robberies, she has no outstanding warrants. She steps out of her yellow Corvette and mocks the officers, claiming she is only in town for the weather. Nolan orders her to leave Los Angeles immediately. Claire ignores the warning and walks away. At the precinct, Sergeant Bradford uses elevator surveillance footage to run biometric identification. The elevator cam reveals Claire's elite crew, a hacker who breached the New York Stock Exchange, a demolition expert from a family business, and a former NASCAR driver. The police department initiates a full-scale surveillance operation on every member. Claire realizes she is being watched. She walks toward her car, finds it immobilized by a police boot, and calmly switches to a motorcycle. She maneuvers into the blind spot of a passing transit bus. When the bus clears the frame, she has vanished. The tracking team loses her position. Meanwhile, patrol officers discover the body of a murdered celebrity stylist. They analyze the victim's digital calendar and find a scheduled delivery of high-value jewelry for an upcoming gala. The police set an ambush along the transport route. They catch Claire's team in the middle of the heist. Claire's using a thermal saw to cut into the armored truck's safe. A shootout erupts. Claire attempts to flee in a sedan, but Nolan pursues her through the streets. He forces her vehicle to a stop. Claire is wounded, but reaches for her weapon. Nolan holds his aim until she drops the gun. He secures the handcuffs. Her perfect record ends on a residential street. A sniper fires 3 rounds into a moving SUV on a busy city street. Every bullet penetrates the windshield with surgical precision. The tight grouping confirms the shooter is an elite marksman. Officers Nolan and Chen reconstruct the trajectory using ballistic data. The evidence leads them to aid Merritt, a former special forces operator and private contractor. He is a professional trained to kill under high-pressure conditions. The police track Merritt to a remote cabin. As they close in, Merritt pulls the pin on a fragmentation grenade. He holds the safety lever down, threatening to detonate the explosive and kill everyone in the room. He expects the officers to retreat to avoid the blast radius. Instead, Nolan and Chen keep their weapons trained on him. They do not move. Nolan explains the cold physics of the situation. A grenade fuse takes 4 seconds to ignite. Chen shifts her aim directly to Merritt's head, specifically targeting the medulla oblongata. They describe the reality of a medulla shot. The bullet will sever the brainstem, instantly cutting off all motor functions. His muscles will not reflexively release. His hand will stay clamped on the grenade lever even after his heart stops. The explosion will never happen. The psychological leverage shifts instantly. Merritt realizes his suicide play has been neutralized by tactical logic. He is no longer an aggressor, he is a target waiting for a total nervous system shutdown. The pressure breaks his resolve. Merritt surrenders the grenade and submits to the arrest. The standoff ends in total tactical submission. Elijah sits across from Wesley in a restaurant and places a smartphone on the table. The screen shows a live feed of Wesley's wife and newborn child inside their home. Elijah has exploited software vulnerabilities to execute a penetration attack on the family's baby monitor. He has turned a private safety device into a remote surveillance tool. The drug lord makes his demand clear. Wesley will now serve as a legal front for his money laundering operations. There is no room for negotiation. If Wesley seeks help, the cameras watching his family become targets for a hit. Wesley, an elite lawyer, is now a puppet. His first assignment takes him to a high-security detention center. He enters the interrogation room to meet a sniper suspect. Wesley does not discuss a defense strategy. Instead, he uses attorney-client privilege to deliver secret intelligence from Elijah to the prisoner. He is no longer a defender of the law. He is an active participant in a criminal conspiracy. The transition is absolute. Elijah's use of technology has stripped Wesley of his autonomy and forced him to facilitate crimes to ensure his family's survival. Wesley leaves the facility, knowing his professional status is merely a shield for Elijah's interests. High-tech surveillance has effectively dismantled the boundary between the legal system and the underworld, turning a man of justice into a vital asset for a global cartel. Officers John Nolan and Lucy Chen arrive at a house engulfed in flames. They ignore the fire department's delay and breach the front door without oxygen masks. They locate a survivor in the thick black smoke and drag him to the street just as the roof begins to collapse. The rescue is a success, but the investigation is about to reveal a much darker reality. Arson investigators sift through the cooling debris and find a second body. It is charred beyond recognition. In the morgue, the medical examiner performs a full-body X-ray. The scans reveal a brutal truth: a transverse fracture of the left femur and multiple compound fractures in the pelvis. These are not injuries caused by falling beams or intense heat. The medical examiner checks the victim's blood and lungs. There is no soot in the airway and zero carbon monoxide in the system. The conclusion is absolute. The victim stopped breathing before the fire ever started. The bone-crushing injuries were inflicted roughly an hour before death, while the man was still alive. This was a systematic, physical dismantling of a human being. The police run this specific modus operandi through the national database. They find 2 cold cases in Nevada with the exact same signature victims, with pulverized lower bodies found in houses burned to the ground. The evidence confirms a terrifying shift in the case. This is not an isolated incident of arson. A serial killer is moving across state lines, hunting victims, and using fire to erase the evidence of his cruelty. The hunt for the bone crusher has begun. Detective Nyla Harper cross-references vehicle identification numbers to track a pattern of abductions. She identifies a silver sedan linked to a series of staged hidden runs. The suspect uses these accidents to incapacitate targets before kidnapping them. Harper locates the vehicle parked outside a secluded warehouse in the middle of the night. She notifies dispatch of her position and requests immediate backup. As she approaches, smoke begins to billow from the windows. Harper realizes the suspect is torching the evidence, with the victim still inside. She draws her weapon and enters the building alone. The interior is a maze of burning crates and heavy smoke. She navigates the rising heat, searching for signs of life. She finds the victim, Ken, unconscious on the floor. The fire reaches the chemical stores, triggering small bursts of flame throughout the room. Harper holsters her weapon and grabs the victim by his shoulders. She drags him across the concrete floor, fighting against the weight and the decreasing oxygen levels. She reaches a locked rear exit and forces the mechanism. They clear the threshold just as a massive backdraft causes the structure to explode. Later at the hospital, Harper recovers from smoke inhalation. She sits with her colleagues and refuses to frame the rescue as an act of bravado. Instead, she explains the tactical logic of her actions. She describes the 1200 degree heat and the specific survival techniques used to remain conscious. For Harper, the rescue was not about heroism. It was a calculated response to a lethal variable. Sergeant Gray enters the restaurant to confront Elijah Stone. He delivers a direct ultimatum, but Elijah remains unmoved. The mob boss smiles, offering a meal while mocking the police presence. He maintains the facade of a legitimate businessman, treating the sergeant's warnings as mere noise. To Elijah, the police are an inconvenience, not a threat. Meanwhile, defense attorney Wesley is buried in legal files. He is meticulously building a strategy to save his client, Aiden, believing the judicial system still offers a path to victory. The office door opens. Elijah Stone walks in with his associates, filling the small room. Wesley begins to explain the defense plan, but Elijah cuts him short. He tells the lawyer to stop working on the case. The reason is functional. The prison will be calling shortly. Elijah reveals that Aiden has been found dead in his cell. While Wesley was studying law books and trial precedents, Elijah was coordinating a hit inside the state's high-security facility. The legal defense is now irrelevant because the witness has been neutralized. Wesley stands paralyzed by the realization of Elijah's reach. The mob boss does not use metaphors. He uses results. He confirms that Aiden was killed because his loyalty wavered. When Wesley's shock turns toward his ethical obligations, Elijah shifts the pressure. He mentions Wesley's family, turning a professional update into a direct threat. Elijah demonstrates that the law stops at the prison gates, while his authority bypasses them entirely. He leaves the office, having dismantled a legal case and demands resolve in 60 seconds. Pete arrives at his sister's doorstep in Los Angeles, covered in fake blood and clutching a bag of beef jerky. He stages a gruesome death prank, laughing while his sister, a police officer, reacts in horror. This display of immaturity is a mask for a desperate flight. Pete has abandoned his girlfriend, Chastity, because she is pregnant. He views himself as a genetic failure, a man with no skills and the intelligence of a bird. He is convinced that his presence would only ruin the child's life, repeating the cycle of abandonment his own father started. The police find a use for his history of bad decisions. During a narcotics investigation, Pete's knowledge of underground transactions becomes a critical asset. He identifies the digital fingerprints of a new drug called Bomb X, explaining crypto purchasing tactics that baffle the detectives. He enters the investigation as a technical consultant, navigating the dangerous fringes of the drug trade. His contribution leads to a successful bust. For the first time, Pete realizes he is capable of more than just running away. The mission's success forces a shift. Pete decides to stop hiding. He finds Chastity, ready to embrace the burden of fatherhood. He drops to one knee, offering a lifetime of commitment and a promise to be the man his family needs. Then, the reality shifts again. Chastity reveals she isn't actually pregnant. The crisis was a false alarm. Pete is left standing in the wake of his own growth, a man who was finally ready to stay, even if the reason has vanished. Police officers interrupt two scammers, charging an elderly woman $10,000 to exorcise her apartment. They dismiss the supernatural claims as a fraud until a thermal scan reveals a localized temperature drop in the bathroom. Detective Lopez investigates the building's history, uncovering a timeline of industrial fires and its use as a cult recording studio. The investigation shifts from a scam to a search for physical intruders. Officers discover a hidden void behind a bathroom mirror and crawl into the narrow gap between the walls. Inside the darkness, they find discarded food, a sleeping bag, and a row of peepholes drilled into the drywall. These holes offer a direct line of sight into the private lives of the tenants. The haunting is actually a man living in the infrastructure. The situation turns violent when a stalker emerges from a hidden panel in the laundry room to attack a resident with a knife. Officer Chen, moving through the crawl space, hears the victim's screams. She smashes through the drywall, catching the attacker by surprise. A brutal struggle ensues in the cramped laundry room. Chen overpowers the man, pinning him to the floor as backup arrives. The residents realize they haven't been living with a spirit, but with a predator who watched them sleep for years. The police clear the building, but the realization of being watched from within the walls leaves a permanent chill. Halloween night turns violent as civilians transform into feral attackers. A woman lunges at responding officers, her face smeared with blood. She exhibits unnatural strength and attempts to bite the police. It takes multiple officers and repeated taser deployments to restrain her. At the hospital, victims suffer from drug-induced seizures. Sergeant Bradford identifies the substance as Bomb X, a new synthetic narcotic. The police trace the sales to ClipTalk, a social media app where dealers use specific hashtags to advertise. Officer Nolan recruits Pete to serve as a confidential informant. The plan is a buy-walk operation designed to flush out the supplier. Pete meets a dealer under a dark overpass and hands over thousands of dollars in cash to buy the entire inventory. The dealer, now out of product, immediately drives to his source to restock. Surveillance teams follow the suspect to a theater. Inside, the drug ring operates a distribution center behind the stage. Officers breach the building with guns drawn. They move through the dark aisles, cutting off all exit points. The police intercept the dealer and his supplier during the handoff. Despite the chaotic environment, the tactical team pins the suspects and secures the scene. They seize the remaining crates of Bomb X and arrest the leadership of the drug ring. The operation successfully dismantles the supply chain before the drug can kill anyone else. Jerry McGrady has been a cop for 43 years. His medical record lists 21 service-related injuries, 9 stabbings, 2 gunshot wounds, 4 broken bones, and 3 teeth knocked out. Because of this physical toll, the department is forcing him to retire. Sergeant Tim Bradford takes the veteran out for one final patrol. The mission is a cold case, a gold heist that has remained unsolved for 20 years. While the younger generation relies on digital algorithms and preset search grids, Jerry looks at the physical evidence. He analyzes a handwritten note from the suspect that reads, "Up your ass." Jerry ignores the insult and focuses on the mechanics of the writing. He identifies the suspect as left-handed. This fact renders 20 years of police work obsolete. Standard search protocols assume suspects turn right when exiting a building, but a left-handed man turns left. Jerry recalibrates the search logic and leads Bradford directly to the stolen gold. He solves in hours what technology couldn't solve in 2 decades. The patrol ends at a dark tunnel. Jerry hands over the recovered treasure, proving his old-school methods are still superior. Suddenly, the police radio breaks the silence. The dispatcher broadcasts the end-of-watch signal for Officer 9944. Jerry McGrady is officially off duty for the last time. Every unit on the frequency responds with a final salute to his 43 years of service. Jerry stands in the quiet, his career finished, having secured the final victory of his life. Citizens swarm public parks with shovels, tearing up lawns to find buried treasure. A man claims he lost his keys while digging a massive pit, but police find a poem in his pocket. This text, posted to Reddit by a dying bank robber named Stuart Packer, claims to reveal the location of $2 million in stolen gold coins. The hunt escalates when a young mother is murdered at the pier, killed by a rival seeker following the same clues. Officers gather in a briefing room to analyze the poem. They identify specific landmarks through factual deduction. The word angle refers to an angler, pointing to a fishing pier. References to stars and rebels lead them to the Griffith Observatory, which houses a monument to the film Rebel Without a Cause. The team realizes the final location is not at the observatory, but beneath it. They identify a network of abandoned subway tunnels sealed since the 1950s. Inside the dark tunnels, 2 treasure hunters confront each other. One man holds a shovel, while the other pulls a handgun. A shootout begins. Police move into the crossfire, disarming the suspects and securing the area. They dig into the dirt floor and pull out a heavy canvas bag. It contains the gold coins from a 20-year-old bank heist. The police seize the currency and close the case, ending the citywide disturbance. Forensic lab results identify the accelerant used in a series of fatal arsons as instant strip. This specific solvent was discontinued by its manufacturer 1 year ago. Officer Nolan discovers a case of this rare chemical hidden in the garage of Fire Lieutenant Fred Mitchell during a social gathering. Nolan uses his phone to cross-reference Mitchell's travel history with unsolved crimes. The records place Mitchell in Nevada during 2 separate arson murders where victims were immobilized with broken legs before the fires were set. Bailey enters Mitchell's home to secure physical evidence. Mitchell returns unexpectedly, forcing Bailey to retreat into a closet. Mitchell enters the room and begins to search the immediate area. Nolan intervenes at the front door, using a fabricated conversation about marriage to keep Mitchell occupied. Bailey uses the distraction to search Mitchell's private office. She finds a gold watch belonging to the first victim, kept alongside other personal items as trophies. Mitchell nearly discovers her, but she escapes through a side window. She meets Nolan at his patrol vehicle and presents the photograph of the stolen watch. The chemical match, the Nevada timeline, and the recovered trophies confirm the lieutenant's identity. The investigation concludes that the celebrated firefighter is the serial arsonist. The police obtain a warrant to arrest the man who used his professional knowledge of fire to execute his victims. Officer Tim Bradford receives a specific lead from Officer Chen. A wealthy woman is actively searching for a professional hitman to murder her husband. To secure a conviction and stop the homicide, Bradford goes undercover. He discards his patrol uniform and puts on a black leather jacket. Chen secures a wireless microphone to his torso with medical tape. This transmitter sends high-quality audio to a nearby surveillance van. Every word spoken will be used as primary evidence in a court of law. Bradford walks to the target's car. He maintains a flat expression and speaks in short, functional sentences. He needs the suspect to provide a clear, verbal intent to kill. The woman is eager. She explains that her husband is worth more to her dead than alive. She reaches into her bag and produces a thick envelope filled with cash. She hands the money to Bradford, confirming it is the first installment for the hit. She explicitly tells him to kill the bastard. The microphone captures the exact phrase, the location, and the transfer of funds. The legal requirements for solicitation of murder are now met. Bradford does not take the money. He reaches into his pocket and reveals his official police shield. He informs the woman she is under arrest. Her confidence vanishes instantly. She has provided a recorded confession to an officer of the law. Patrol cars move in to block her exit. Bradford remains calm as he secures the scene, turning a potential murder into a closed case file. Officer Nolan wakes up bound in a massive, abandoned factory. His neighbor, Marcus, stands over him, dropping the mask of a friendly civilian. Marcus admits to drugging Nolan with rohypnol, a powerful sedative used to incapacitate his victims. He is not looking for a quick kill. He wants a hunt. Marcus releases Nolan's restraints and gives him a head start, initiating a lethal game of cat and mouse within the decaying structure. Nolan moves through the shadows, suffering from head trauma and the lingering effects of the drug. He finds a discarded CAD system, the vital lifeline for police dispatch. Despite his blurred vision and the pressure of the pursuit, he manages to activate the device. He transmits his precise GPS coordinates to headquarters and calls for urgent backup. Marcus stalks him through the corridors, armed with an assault rifle and mocking Nolan's desperation. The hunter eventually corners his prey in a narrow hallway. Marcus fires, pinning Nolan behind heavy machinery. With no firearm, Nolan scans his surroundings and finds a pair of old, rusty scissors. As Marcus closes in for the execution, Nolan lunges from the dark. He ignores his own wounds and drives the rusted blades into Marcus's body. The killer collapses, the power dynamic shifting in a single, violent stroke. Nolan holds his ground until the sound of sirens fills the air. The neighbor who thought he was a predator realizes too late that he chose the wrong target. The hunt is over, and the officer remains the last one standing. Detective Lopez and Officer Nolan arrive at Marvin Reynolds' home to investigate an assault on a federal employee. Marvin stands behind his door and refuses to recognize their authority. He declares himself a sovereign citizen, claiming the government is merely a corporation with no jurisdiction over him. The standoff ends when Marvin produces a submachine gun. He fires a long burst at the officers, forcing them to take cover behind their vehicle before he flees in a sedan. The police track Marvin to the city docks by following a trail of leaking oil. They find his car abandoned near a decommissioned battleship. Marvin retreats into the ship's interior to exploit the tight corners and steel bulkheads. Before entering the structure, the officers deploy a ball cam. This 360-degree scout robot rolls into the rooms, providing a live feed of Marvin's location and his proximity to various traps. This technology allows the team to bypass an ambush that would have been fatal. Nolan and Lopez move into the ship, clearing the narrow hallways. Marvin fires from a concealed position, but the officers push him toward the upper levels. The confrontation reaches the main deck. Marvin raises his submachine gun to fire again. Lopez pulls her trigger first. Multiple rounds strike Marvin, and he falls to the deck. The officers move in to secure the weapon and confirm the suspect is dead. The search of his vehicle later reveals a massive stockpile of explosives intended for a larger attack. A private plane crashes onto a busy city street, leaving a trail of wreckage and foam. Officers inspect the debris and find a heavy bag containing 200 pounds of gold bars. They use a mobile ID scanner on the cockpit controls to identify the pilot. The database returns a hit, Levi Lincoln, a billionaire currently serving a life sentence for murder. The officers immediately head to the state prison to verify the inmate's location. In the cell, they find a man who appears to be Lincoln, but a physical inspection reveals plastic surgery scars hidden beneath his hairline. The man is a professional double. He confesses to the trade, $5 million up front and $5 million more upon release. He warns that the prison staff is compromised and refuses to name the guards who facilitated the switch. Police track the real Levi Lincoln to a private airfield. As they arrive, Lincoln pulls a handgun and opens fire on the patrol car. The officers take cover and pursue him into a nearby hangar. A tactical shootout begins among parked aircraft and heavy machinery. Lincoln reloads his weapon, attempting to suppress the officers long enough to reach his getaway plane. He fails to break the perimeter. Cornered and out of ammunition, Lincoln emerges from the hangar into the sunlight. He finds himself staring into the barrels of multiple service weapons. He drops his gun and raises his hands. The billionaire who bought a prison sentence for $10 million is placed in handcuffs. His escape ends on the tarmac.